Hey everybody, Chad Hyams here, getting ready for another episode of the Achieve Your Apex podcast. I'm loving being able to go deeper and deeper into the material that's in my book, Achieve Your Apex, to help you. And this episode, we're going to continue the conversations we had going already from chapter 8 about real relationships. That's right. If you didn't hear the other ones, real relationships, because they're different than just relationships. Many of us have relationships. We have friends, according to social media, right? We have acquaintances. We have people we know. We have that person like our neighbor who we head nod at if you're watching me on YouTube, right? Or just do the wave as we drive by thing just to keep it friendly. Yet that doesn't necessarily mean we have a relationship with that person. And today in this episode, we're going to cover the 5 things that are the key areas for you to be able to focus on to create and nurture some meaningful relationships. And if I have time, I'm going to give you a system to apply. If not, you just have to come back next week and learn that system. I'll work it into next week's episode for you. So let's get into it right away with the 5 steps, key points I want you focused on to create and nurture meaningful relationships. The first one, you got to be present. You got to be present. That means active listening. That doesn't mean this podcast is going and you're actually talking to somebody else. We're not present if you're not paying attention. That means not having a conversation with someone like most of us do, listening for our turn to talk. It's listening to truly listen. One of your parents told you growing up again and again, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth, use it, right? Twice as much listening as we talk. That's the first way to be present, to create and nurture a relationship. Also, being present means being authentic, right? Being present means discussing things like significance of how important it is for us to be genuine. And if we're not present, we're just being surface and we're being shallow. We're not listening to make that connection with somebody. We're not being able to share something authentic about us that says, I too have walked a mile in those shoes, or I absolutely get it. Or for people who will get this comment, right? I too have been thirsty. Okay. I want you to understand that if you're not where your feet are, and that is being present. That doesn't mean a cell phone in your hand. Yes, you might have it in your hand, but put it away. Put it in your pocket. Keep it down out of sight. Making eye contact is being present. Active listening is being present. And being authentic shows you're being present. Okay? I want you to understand that I'm going to get Will's last name wrong. Will Schwalbe. Okay, I'm going to get his name wrong, but I'm going to share his quote, which is the greatest gift you can give someone is your undivided attention. It doesn't matter what your personality type is, whether you're introverted, extroverted, whether you understand a disc profile, whether you understand the 5 love languages, it doesn't matter. Giving someone your undivided attention, one of the most powerful things you can do. Okay, number 2 on our list, avoid making assumptions. How many times do we make assumptions and they say something to us and we say, oh, that means they're this, that means they're that. And we close down on something. We have to not make assumptions and be open-minded. You should learn the lesson of 3 questions. When you think 1 question's enough, if you truly want to be open-minded, go 3, because you're making an assumption. I can ask you, do you have a dog? And you're going to say yes. And if I don't ask any other questions, I've made an assumption about you. I don't know if it's a little dog. I don't know if it's a big dog. I don't know if it's a puppy. I don't know what it is that is going to be important to you about having the connection with that dog in your world, because I'm not being open-minded enough to ask questions. I'm just saying, oh, dog person, you go in this list. And you know, a big dog person and a little dog person are 2 very different people, even though they're dog people. Okay, so we have to make sure we stop making assumptions whenever the opportunity presents itself for us. This is going to help us nurture and create stronger relationships with people because we're not just assuming we know them before we get the chance to know them. Okay? Take time to learn about a person, then you can form opinions about that person. Now, that's not saying there isn't someone who you know immediately is an idiot. I'll say it, right? That means there are sometimes those people who you understand, no, I don't want a relationship with this person. Okay, because it doesn't matter what you might learn about them after the fact, you've probably already made the right assumption. Yet overall, we want to avoid making assumptions, right? Empathy will help us not to make assumptions, which will help us strengthen those relationships. Now, Maya Angelou, I can get that one right. She said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Don't make assumptions, but believe they're showing you their true character. So that's 2 of our principles as we keep going. Let's get to principle number 3. And that's different than avoiding assumptions. That's removing expectations. Okay, we have to remove expectations, which helps us to build trust. Okay, we have to give without expecting anything back. That's going to help us build trust with people by seeing how they respond, seeing what they do. But if we remove an expectation, just because I say, what can I do for you, doesn't mean they're going to say, well, what can I do for you? Right? I might find myself giving at the beginning. Well, some relationships have to start that way. Not everyone's going to be an equal giver. Someone's going to be a giver. Someone's probably going to be a taker to start a relationship. That doesn't mean the relationship will always be one-sided. If you can get rid of expectations, what ends up happening is that trust ends up being built over time. They start to trust that, oh, you gave, but you weren't waiting for me to say, let me give back. You did it out of selflessness, not because you were actually being selfish and you just wanted something from me in return. And when that trust comes, now people will start to give back. Now the relationship will be able to change. Think for a minute. How many times in your life, you can't count them on your fingers and your toes, you need more, have you probably been burned in some sort of relationship? It might have been a quick one-off situation. It might have been a long-term relationship. If there's no trust, there's no give and take. And sometimes we have to be willing to be the one that's giving to help the relationship grow to the level we want to get it to. Now, John Holmes said, I love being able to share some great quotes that go with this stuff. John Holmes said, there is no exercise better for the heart than reaching down and lifting people up. And so many of you that are listening to this podcast do that every single day anyway. That's the step that will turn relationships into relationships. There's 3. Here's the thing. If you were listening, you know there's 2 more. So I'm going to cover those 2 on the next episode because I want to respect your time and not turn this into a long episode. I want you to be able to say 10 minutes. I'm in, out, done. Sometimes even sooner than that, yet I'm still getting some value. So join me on the next episode. Here are the last 2 ways you can better develop these relationships and nurture them. And I'll give you a system to apply to help you continue to move relationships forward. Until then, keep climbing.